The warning tone cut through the cockpit. Missile launch. I didn't need the second alert to know it was real. The impact came half a second later. The aircraft jolted hard to the right. Something exploded behind me. The jet shuddered like it had been punched by a truck. Fire warning. Engine 2. And suddenly the cockpit smelled like burned metal. Control expected to see a parachute. They didn't. The warning tone cut through the cockpit. Missile launch. I didn't need the second alert to know it was real. The impact came half a second later. The aircraft snapped violently to the right. My helmet struck the side of the seat as the entire jet shuddered. A dull explosion rolled through the fuselage, followed by a metallic grinding vibration that didn't belong in the air at 28,000 feet. Fire warning. Engine 2. The caution panel lit up like a Christmas tree. I felt the aircraft yaw as thrust dropped unevenly. The nose wanted to drift. I corrected instinctively. Small inputs, steady hands. Training takes over before fear does. I scanned the instruments. RPM falling. EGT spiking. Fuel pressure unstable. Something back there was burning. The smell hit next. Hot metal, insulation, something chemical. It seeped into the cockpit despite the pressurization. Not strong, but present. Real. I checked altitude. Plenty to eject. I checked speed. Within safe envelope. My right hand hovered for half a second near the ejection handle. That reflex had been drilled into me for years. Missile hit equals evaluate and, if necessary, leave. But the jet was still flying. Barely, but flying. I throttled engine 2 back. The vibration eased slightly, but not completely. Flames could be doing more damage than the sensors were telling me. Another warning blinked. Hydraulic pressure B system fluctuating. That meant flight controls might get heavy. If both hydraulic systems failed, this wasn't going to be a decision. It would be survival. I rolled wings level. The horizon steadied. One engine was still responding. That changed everything. I wasn't out of the fight yet. And I wasn't out of the... The jet was wounded, but it wasn't dead. I shut engine 2 down completely. The vibration dropped to a low, uneven tremor. Not good, but manageable. Engine 1 held steady at military power. Temperatures within limits. Fuel flow stable. I took a breath. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Single engine. Missile impact. Attempting return. Silence for a fraction of a second. Then the controller came back, calm but tight. Recommend ejection. Of course they did. That's the safe answer. The textbook answer. The answer that keeps pilots alive. I looked at the map display. Friendly airspace was 12 minutes away. 12 long minutes on one engine, with unknown structural damage and a fire somewhere behind my seat. If I pulled the handle now, I'd land in contested territory. Search and rescue would have to come for me. That would put more people at risk. I checked flight controls. Roll response. Sluggish, but present. Pitch. Slightly heavy. Rudder. Compensating for asymmetric thrust. The jet could still answer me. Another caution light flickered and went dark again. Electrical bus fluctuation. Probably damage to the wiring harness. I ran quick mental math. Fuel remaining versus burn rate. Distance versus glide ratio. Engine 1 margin versus climb performance. It wasn't comfortable, but it was possible. Confirming. I'm staying with the aircraft. The controller hesitated. Copy. No argument. No lecture. Just that one word. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was trying to bring the jet home. Because as long as I had thrust and control authority, ejecting was not the only option. And I wasn't ready to give the sky up yet. 5 minutes into the return, the aircraft reminded me this wasn't under control. Hydraulic pressure dipped again. Not a warning this time, a drop. The stick stiffened in my hand. Every correction required more force. The jet responded half a second slower than before, like it was thinking about whether it wanted to obey. That delay is dangerous. In combat airspace, hesitation kills. I trimmed nose down slightly to reduce load on the controls. Engine 1 continued pushing, but the imbalance was obvious. The jet wanted to yaw left constantly. My right leg pressed steady against the rudder pedal just to keep the nose aligned. Then came the next problem. Fuel imbalance. Engine 2 had taken the hit, and somewhere in that damaged fuel lines had likely ruptured. The system began transferring automatically to compensate, but the numbers weren't clean. If fuel shifted too aggressively, center of gravity would move. That would make landing harder. I switched to manual crossfeed. Smoke crept along the canopy rail, thin, gray, persistent. Not filling the cockpit, not yet, but enough to tell me the fire wasn't fully out. Status? Control asked. Engine 1 holding. Hydraulics degraded. Smoke present. No drama, just data. Inside, my mind was running faster than the jet. If engine 1 flamed out, I'd have less than a minute before airspeed decayed below controllable limits. Glide might get me somewhere survivable, but not home. I scanned the engine gauges again. Temperature creeping upward. Too high for comfort. I eased the throttle back slightly. Speed dropped, but temperatures stabilized. Every adjustment was a trade. Speed for temperature. Control for endurance. Aggression for survival. The sky ahead looked calm. The jet beneath me wasn't. And I still had 7 minutes to go. The runway filled the windshield. No formation. No escort. No backup. Just one engine and a damaged airframe trying to stay stable long enough to touch concrete. I kept the descent shallow, slightly faster than normal approach speed. With degraded hydraulics, I didn't trust slow flight. The stick felt heavy but predictable now. Predictable in the way something broken can be predictable. Engine 1 temperature fluctuated again. If it surged, I'd lose thrust asymmetrically and roll on short final. I kept a little extra power in reserve. One hand on throttle, one hand steady on the stick. The crosswind wasn't strong, but with yaw imbalance it felt amplified. The nose wanted to drift. I corrected with small rudder inputs. Not too much. Overcorrection could trigger oscillation. 300 feet. Smoke thickened slightly along the canopy edge. The fire warning flickered once, then stayed on solid. 200 feet. I committed. There was no safe go-around on one engine with uncertain hydraulics. If I pushed throttle and something failed, I'd stall low and fast. 100 feet. Throttle back gradually. The jet began to sink. For a split second, the nose wobbled, a tiny instability from uneven thrust decay. I countered with rudder and gentle roll correction. 50 feet. The runway lights blurred beneath me. 30. 10. The wheels hit harder than textbook smooth. The impact slammed through the landing gear and into the frame, but the structure held. The jet bounced once, just inches, then settled. I deployed speed brakes manually. No reverse thrust available from the damaged engine. Brakes responded sluggishly at first, then bit. The aircraft rolled down the runway trailing thin smoke. I didn't relax. Not yet, because the most dangerous moment isn't the hit. It's the landing after damage. The jet slowed through 90 knots. 60. 40. Only then did I let my shoulders drop. Emergency vehicles were already moving alongside the runway. I could see the flashing lights through the thin smoke trailing from the left side of the aircraft. Control expected to see a parachute, the voice said over the radio. Instead, they saw landing lights. They saw smoke. They saw one engine running. But the aircraft was still upright. Still rolling. Still under control. I turned off the runway and brought the jet to a stop. Only then did I shut the engine down. Silence filled the cockpit. Not combat silence. Not tension silence. Aftermath silence. Crew trucks surrounded the aircraft. Ground personnel approached cautiously. One of them raised a thumb. I returned it. Later, the maintenance report would list it clinically. Engine failure due to internal damage. Hydraulic pressure degraded. Structural stress within limits. Aircraft recoverable. Numbers. Diagnostics. Procedures. But none of that captured what actually happened. Because in that airspace, with one engine burning and the other carrying everything, the safe choice would have been to eject. Standard procedure. Guaranteed survival. Instead, he stayed. He flew it back. And sometimes the most dangerous aircraft in the sky isn't the one that wins the fight. It's the one that refuses to leave.